Indeed, well, as far as the prison break goes, we saw the news earlier in the day. Unfortunately, 16 inmates were able to escape after some inmates attacked some guards at the Keffi Medium Security Custodial Center. Of course, the statement that followed has revealed that 7 of these inmates have been recaptured. And of course, following the visit of the Controller General of Corrections, Sylvester Nwakuche, he has also given a marching order for a thorough investigation to be carried out to ensure the recapture of others, 9 others who are still, still out of reach. The expectation is hopefully in the coming days we may see the recapture of some others, if not hopefully all of those who escaped from custody. That's it so far. However, he also mentioned, the statement also mentioned that 5 officers rather were injured in the protest, and 2, of course, in critical conditions and currently in government-owned facilities within the state undergoing treatment at the moment. That's the update so far. However, I'd like interesting to know, of course, that this is not the first prison break at the Keffi Medium Security Custodial Center, because sometime in 2019, according to reports, there was a prison break, in fact, where around 50 inmates had broken out of the facility due to varying reasons, including poor welfare. This, of course, among several others, have characterized prison breaks in Nigerian custodial centers, with many experts calling on government to take more stringent actions, not only to ensure proper security in these custodial centers, but also to ensure proper welfare for inmates across custodial centers in Nigeria.
Well, thank you so much for that, Sagir. Let me quickly just, to join this conversation now with security analyst Darlington Umoru, who joins us live from Lagos. Now, Cyril was supposed to join, but he seems to forget that I have the microphone. Darlington, let me ask you, what weaknesses in the facility security do you see in terms of our weaknesses, which is including, the actions or inactions of prison guards, supervisors or other officials that allow the inmates to sort of overpower these officers and escape?
Well, each correctional facility is supposed to have, beyond the officers of the correctional home, you're supposed to have other security, sister security agencies and the military. But as it were, at this time, the military is having so much in its hands. But the basic problem that is actually encouraging these jailbreaks is the fact that most of these correctional centers are overcrowded. You see correctional centers that are meant to house, say, about 1,500 or 2,000 persons will be having about 6,000 to 7,000 persons housed there, including those who are serving jail terms, those who are awaiting trials, those who have been sentenced to death, who the governors are yet to sign their death sentences so that they could be executed. All of these create a lot of problems, including the underaged. In most times, they are crowded in these facilities, and then the facilities themselves become overwhelmed. Even the warders themselves, they get overwhelmed. You can imagine where a few persons will agree that, okay, they need to handle these few persons who are supposed to take charge of them, and then how would they be able to achieve all of that? I have said sometimes when we have had cases like this, that there should be a facility not too far from each of these places where you have the correctional center, from where at times like this, when jailbreaks are beginning to be attempted, one of the officers could raise alarm, and then the people in that other center could just quickly come to their rescue as backup. But do we have all of that? The answer is no. You remember what happened at Kuje? Kuje, it took hours. Only God knows how many hours it took these other persons to overpower the officers at this correctional center before they were able to achieve what they achieved. 16 of them escaped, 7 had been gotten. What about the other 9? Where are they gone to? And what is even the officers are yet to tell Nigerians about the profiles of these 9 persons or 16 persons that left that place. Did they get external assistance? Were they given internal assistance? I heard the chief of the officer saying that if any of the officers is found culpable, that they will be dealt with precisely. We need to have all of those information as investigation continues.
Now, the Comptroller General of Corrections says that no staff will be spared if found culpable. Now, the question is, where does that leave the conversation? Because when you factor all of these, contributing factors that you just listed out, where would they blur the lines between culpability or just lack of amenities or provisions?
Well, all of these are factors that are also contributing to the menace we're experiencing in these correctional centers. Your guess is as good as mine. The truth is, the facilities themselves, like I said, are not good enough to handle some of these persons. But what about the security? Do we have enough security to police these correctional centers to ensuring that when these attempts are made, these persons will be able to resist them and then we'll be able to overpower them? We have not been able to see all of that in most correctional centers. Even as strong as the Kuje prison was, we saw all of what happened. There are no CCTV cameras to monitor activities. There are no whistleblowers or backup for people that will quickly come to the rescue of the officers at times like this. So I really don't know what is happening. Whether we are actually running a correctional center or we are just running places where these persons ordinarily are just merely detained for the sake of detention. If you go to some of these, I have visited some of them, but what you find out in some of these places is appalling. And so it's easy. How can 16 persons overpower officers on duty and then even injure as many as 5 that are taking treatment in the hospital now? How? You begin to ask yourself, how?
Right.
It's a big problem, my sister.
Right. Let's bring in our correspondent, Sagir Ibrahim. Sagir, there's already an ongoing investigation into the misconduct of correctional officers. How does this latest incident play in all that's happening at the hearing or the panel that's ongoing?
Well, the investigation is ongoing, of course, as you know. The majority of the investigation is going on here in Abuja, the federal capital, of course, but it doesn't take away the fact that inmates are going to be inmates are going to have concerns, and sometimes, unfortunately, when these concerns are not addressed, we may get to see issues like this come up. So what I can say basically is until we begin to see actions taken by these investigative panels in terms of sanctions, in terms of even if it has to do with conviction of those who are responsible or found guilty as a result of this investigation, maybe then and only then we will begin to see a bit of sanity return to the prison system, because of course it's a multifaceted problem. There's the issue of inmates on one hand that may get irate at one point. There's the issue of alleged corruption, allegations of corruption on the hand of officers being accused for all sorts of crap and food behavior. So until we begin to see actions as a result of this investigation, maybe then and only then we will see this issue to
Gentlemen, before I let you go, just very quickly, how will this jailbreak change how medium security inmates are managed in Nigeria's prisons? Are we going to see more tighter control, decreasing of the population in those prisons, or fast-tracking, their day in court? Let me start with you, Darlington.
Well, that's a wonderful one you just raised. Those are the things we need to do. We need the courts to speedy up some of the cases in their hands so that those of them who are awaiting trials can actually either be let go or be jailed to begin to serve their jail term properly. And then those who have been sentenced to death, the governors of those states, I don't know why most of them are shying away from actually signing the document that will help execute most of those people whose cases have been concluded. Most of them, and then children, those of them who were arrested for wandering, their matters should be attended to. There are many of them who just 5,000 naira. is keeping there. Why not allow most of these people to go so that you depopulate these correctional centers? And then until you do all of this and perhaps fortify the security in these correctional centers, you continue to have some of these things. Jailbreak, well, across the world is a normal phenomenon. But even so, that of Nigeria, we don't know. And then sometimes even these medium correctional centers, they house people they send people there who are not supposed to be there. And then they could have external influence or assistance in trying to get them out. We know about insecurity, the level of insecurity in the country. And then some of these people, are they supposed to be housed in some of these facilities where you know that their members will come and help them get out of those places? And then there's also the issue of corruption. Whether you have officers assisting some of these jailbreaks is another kettle of fish. And sometimes they tell us they will investigate, they will set up, and at the end of the day, we don't hear anything thereafter until another jailbreak takes place in somewhere else in the country. It is not normal. This is not proper.
All
we
right.
cannot continue on this line.
All right. Also, to you, Sagir, as we wrap up, what do you think? Do you think that, I mean, because there's so many jailbreaks, whether medium, high level, there's still been jailbreaks. The Kuje Correctional Facility was one of them as well. Is it about time we start to decrease our concerted efforts in decreasing our prison population so we don't see outbreaks like this or jailbreaks like this?
Well, Judith, there's statistics to back up the fact that around 70% of inmates in correctional facilities across Nigeria are awaiting trial. Mr. Darlington mentioned the fact that it's important for some of these custodial facilities to be decongested. So as for those who are awaiting trial for whatever reason, I could expect the discharge were acquitted by the court, and left go. Now, until all of these issues are addressed, particularly with regard to the slow grinding process of Nigeria's judicial system, we might only see the problem get compounded, especially when, like you mentioned earlier, you see investigations upon investigations upon investigations without any real conclusion of such investigation. You hear an investigation commences today, and you don't hear of that investigation anymore, maybe until there's another prison break. I mean, the today prison break that we all heard about, around 870 inmates were freed as a result of the attack on that facility. Up until this point, not so much has been heard about how many inmates have been captured, recaptured, whether their sentences were increased or decreased, depending on what the situation is. It really looks like an opaque system, and until we begin to see a bit of transparency in all of this, maybe we see the problem linger. But then that's what it would have to take to address this issue.
Well, gentlemen, I must say thank you. Sagir Ibrahim, our correspondent live from the capital, Abuja, as well as Darlington Umoru, security analyst who joined us from Lagos.